We are following a developing story from overseas. The International Crime Court has issued an arrest warrant for Russian President Vladimir Putin for war crimes. He is charged with crimes related to the forced deportation of Ukrainian children to Russia. That essentially means authorities would have to arrest Putin if he traveled to countries where ICC jurisdiction is recognized, further isolating him as the war in Ukraine grinds on.
The ICC is doing its part of work. As a court of law, the judges issued arrest warrants. Their execution depends on international cooperation.
An arrest warrant has also been issued for Russia's Commissioner of Children's Rights. A Kremlin spokesman calls the warrants outrageous and unacceptable.
And here now to help us understand this move is political science professor Stephen Caliendo of North Central College, who joins us now. Professor Caliendo, thanks for being here.
It's great to see you both this afternoon.
Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about is to distinguish whether this is some kind of symbolic move or gesture, or if this is an actual legal law enforcement measure. Your thoughts? It's
both of those things. I think immediately it's quite symbolic. I think it's going to be difficult, for instance, at the upcoming G20 meeting, for instance, for world leaders to sit at a table with Vladimir Putin, to have these conversations. We may see some boycotts. Certainly, given where we are today, Russia's position with the International Criminal Court, nobody's going to be turning him over anytime soon. But Vladimir Putin won't be in power forever. And so with the rest of his life, he's going to need to be looking over his shoulder with respect to this.
So we know that Vladimir Putin is charged with war crimes. Can you explain exactly what those charges are and what they mean?
Part of the Geneva Convention says that you cannot move civilians out of one territory into another against their will. And then there's special considerations also in the convention for children. And so the accusation here is that children were forcibly removed from Ukraine into Russia. Of course, the Russians claim these are humanitarian efforts for children who were orphaned during the war. And so there certainly was an investigation that would lead to an indictment. A lot of it is sealed. We don't have all the specifics, but this is an unusual step for a sitting world leader, especially a member of the UN Security Council, and so we have to assume there's good evidence here.
Yeah, okay. Well, this indictment as well came just hours after the Chinese government announced that President Xi Jinping will visit Putin on Monday. Could this development impact that visit?
It could, but I wouldn't expect it to. I mean, first of all, it wasn't any surprise for folks who were paying attention. This indictment came down. They understood that this was underway. So I don't think that the Kremlin was surprised about it, and I don't think that the Chinese government would have been surprised about it either. There is some symbolism, but remember that these are being pitched as bilateral discussions that have broader implications. That means that there's an assembly of powers that are pushing against traditional, what has become traditional Western power, and so solidifying that is a bigger issue. So I don't know. I can't imagine that the meeting will be canceled.
Professor Caliendo, Ukrainian officials have called this, quote, just the beginning. What other actions can be taken to end the war in Ukraine?
Well, I mean, the war is probably only going to end when there's a lot of pressure on Putin to withdraw, or it's a military victory. I think this, though, Tia, is a really important contribution in some ways, because Putin only retains power if he ends up winning this war. I don't think it's going to animate him to win more than he was already. That was certainly, we saw what the effects have been about his desire to win. But it's really going to be difficult now if he loses the war and he's ousted by the Kremlin. Now he's in a more vulnerable position than he would have been if this indictment wouldn't have come down today.
All right, Professor Stephen Caliendo with North Central College. We always appreciate your time, sir.
Have a great afternoon.
You too.